Hi, and welcome to CryptoBiography. This is your host, Brandon Starr. This is going to be episode 156, and it's going to be part 4 of The Island. And thank you to Marcus, who pointed out there was a problem with episode 153, part 1. It was no longer available on iTunes, so I had to re-upload it, and that seems to have fixed the issue. It does, every time I've checked it since, it does seem to be available now. So, and it's also receiving downloads, so that's good. And so I'm afraid, though, it's going to look a little out of order if you look now. If you look at CryptoBiography.com, you can listen to the podcast that way. And now it's going to be a little out of order because the actual because the post actually kind of disappeared somehow, and so it's a little strange. But all the episodes are there now, and we can kind of get back into the flow of it. So. Here we go, and again, this is episode part 4 of The Island. 3 days later, the family went to the monthly meeting at the full moon. It was just before the market day, so the feast was a tad on the dull side. Lots of fish, as so many fished on the island for their living. Still, there were a number of farmers who brought breads, puddings, and meats of various kinds. Gwen, having gotten permission from Keir, brought a jar of the plums. They had finished one already, so after this, there would be just one left. But Keir was happy to have people share the bounty. Carden wondered if Keir was also happy that people were sharing around the story of his saving Jack Johnson. But perhaps that wouldn't matter. After all, the moon meeting was a time for sharing of news and stories, and so Keir's adventure would be on many people's lips. And so it proved. Keir's story was told around. Carden himself answered questions about it many times. When the feast was over, the time came for the families to discuss news. This was where Carden was surprised, for Keir's story suddenly was put aside. The Pretensions are building their church on top of the main hill in town, Aoife said. She was the head of a good-sized family, and the Aoifesprins composed some quarter of the population. She was known for being level-headed, and many people went to her for advice, even outside her family. It's distasteful, agreed Kara, head of her own family, though smaller. Kara was also younger, only having become a grandmother a few years ago. Our harvest Thanksgivings have happened there for so long. What do we know about them? There was a murmuring. Finally, Carden spoke up. I don't know too much about them, he volunteered, but John Johnson, father of Jack Johnson, the boy Kara saved from drowning, came over the day after that event. He gave presents, and we spoke a little. His family has joined the Pretensions. He mentioned they were new to the area. I'm afraid I know no more, though John Johnson struck me as a very kind and thoughtful neighbor. Neighbor was a word used not just for someone who lived nearby, but who wasn't close enough to be called friend, but had made him or herself known to be a decent and kind person. Carden had chosen the word carefully because he knew it would have weight. It is good to hear they have good people among their number, agreed Kara. But why have they made this decision about their church on their own? It speaks poorly of the rest of them, or at least of their leaders. There is general agreement to this. Gwen asked for attention. Will we do anything about this, or let it go? This caused a lot of murmuring among the group. Carden could tell Gwen was trying to push the issue, one way or the other, but wasn't sure why. Because of this, he decided not to say anything for or against action, lest he go against Gwen's wishes. As the talk wound down and the Gwensprons headed home, Carden found himself pleased. Kara had gotten his moment in the sun, and people would remember, but it didn't seem to be the sort of story that blew up and was retold. It would fade, and hopefully his son wouldn't get too big a head about it. In their bed that night, Carden asked Gwen about her suggestion. I couldn't tell if you were for action against the Pretensions or not, he said. Neither, Gwen said. Neither? Carden said. I was trying not to go against your wishes, but why bring up the idea of action at all then? I didn't want it to fester. I think that people, if on the fence for a long time, will eventually cause problems. If we get the idea of action up early, then we can make sure it's a civilized one. And if not, people will let the idea go. But if people stay angry a long time without acting, the action they settle on may be violent, extreme. That's why I wanted to push the issue. That seems wise. Gwen smiled. Carden could see it in the ray of moonlight coming in through the one small window in their bedroom. Why Duncan? You want to talk about that now? Yes, I don't think I understand why. He has 2 wives. If you took him on, he wouldn't have much time for you. True, but I don't plan on taking him on. Then why? We've been 1-1 for a long time. I don't like to think I was taking that for granted exactly, but given how long, I just thought there wasn't any change coming. Are you jealous? Of your time, not your bed. But you were out at sea fishing for much of the day. I guess I don't know what you need from him. That I don't get from you? Yes. Gwen took a deep breath, put her hand on Carden's waist. I enjoy our time together, Carden, and I don't think I'm missing anything with you. My heart simply wants to explore. Duncan is an interesting lover. I now know why he's able to keep 2 wives happy. But he has a lot of flaws. Unlike you, he is already showing signs of jealousy. I'm no longer going to take him to my bed. Not because of your jealousy, whether of time or of bed, but because he's not as good a person as you. You've put my standards too high on that score to settle for someone else. Carden thought about this. You have a kind way of letting me know I need to get better in bed. Gwen laughed. I don't think it's about better. It's more about wanting to be better. You think I don't want to be better? I think you fell into a rut and decided the rut was your life, and you needn't get out of the rut to be happy. But you were unhappy. I wasn't fully happy. I will get better. She kissed him. I know. And they made love, with him asking questions all the way through. And he found he enjoyed it more than any time with Gwen for a long time. Afterward, he held her in his arms. If you become pregnant, it may not be possible to tell if Duncan or I'm the father. The baby will simply be a Gwen sprung then. You're a decent man. I don't think Duncan will be able to take on another child. I do think that you, whether you knew it to be yours or not, would care for a child of mine with all love and care. You're right, I would. Then it will hardly matter if the baby is formally accepted as yours. I suppose not. Good night, my love. Good night. And that's the end of the episode for this week. It's again sort of a nice little stopping point there, but we are going to keep going. There's more to say about the people of the island and the people of the town. And I hope you enjoyed it. So if you have any comments or questions about this episode or previous episodes, CryptoBiography@gmail.com, or hit us up on Facebook or Twitter. And thank you for listening. Words and music, copyright 2020, CryptoBiography LLC, all rights reserved. Characters and events are fictional, fictionalized, or satirical.